session in our Power of Your Mind series. I'm Kari Bandle, the owner of Sacred Whisper Studio, and today we're bringing everything together into what I like to call the complete mental mastery framework. If you've been with me these past few weeks, you've learned how to rewire negative thought patterns, break free from limiting beliefs, and harness the incredible power of visualization. Today, we're weaving all these threads together into something truly magical. Let me ask you something. Have you ever learned several great techniques but found yourself jumping from one to another without really ever seeing any profound results? That's because the real power isn't in the individual techniques. It's in their integration. There are personal development junkies that learn something new every week. They practice it for a few days and then move on to the next shiny technique. It's kind of like building a house by laying a few bricks and then starting on the roof and then digging the foundation. Nothing ever really gets completed. That's why today's episode might be the most important one yet. So let's get a bit nerdy for a moment, because the science behind this integration is absolutely fascinating. When you combine thought pattern interruption with belief reprogramming and visualization, something remarkable happens in your brain. You create what neuroscientists call integrated neural networks. Imagine your brain as a vast city. Most people have neighborhoods that rarely communicate with each other. But when you practice these techniques together, you're building superhighways between different regions of your neural city. The prefrontal cortex, or your rational brain, connects more efficiently with your limbic system, or your emotional brain, which connects to your visual cortex and motor cortex. This creates what scientists call whole brain synchronization. And here's the kicker. Studies from institutions like Stanford and Harvard show that this kind of integrated brain activity is what distinguishes high performers in most every field. Now, if you're more spiritually inclined like me, you might recognize this as the alignment of the mind, heart, and action, a trinity that appears in spiritual traditions worldwide. In many ancient wisdom traditions, this integration was considered the key to manifesting your deepest intentions. The Hermetic principle, as above, so below, as within, so without, speaks to the same alignment. When you align your thoughts, feelings, and visual imagination, you're essentially harmonizing your entire energetic field. You're creating coherence between your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. And from my experience, both personally and with friends and clients, this alignment is where the magic happens. This is where synchronicities increase, where intuitive hits become stronger, and where manifestation accelerates. But let's get practical. How do we actually implement this into daily life? So let's simplify it. We'll do recognize, reframe, and reimagine in a 3-step process. Step 1 is recognize and release. The first step is becoming aware of your negative thought patterns. Remember, you can't change what you don't notice. This is where mindfulness comes in. Practice catching yourself when you fall into old thinking patterns. Maybe it's catastrophizing about the future, or beating yourself up over a mistake, or even comparing yourself to others. The moment you catch that thought, take a deep breath and say to yourself, "This is an old pattern. I don't need to believe it." This interruption causes a crucial pause, a moment of choice where you reclaim your power. Now, step 2, it's time to replace that limiting thought with a new empowering belief. Remember what we discussed in week 2 about creating believable replacements? So you don't want to jump from "I'm a failure" to "I'm the most successful person on the planet," because your brain's going to reject that. Instead, Try something like, I'm learning and growing every day, or I have unique strengths and I contribute value. And I want to add that you are unique and you do contribute value. Now, when you catch yourself thinking, this always happens to me, replace it with, I'm noticing a pattern that I know now I have the power to change. The key here is consistency. So each time you replace an old thought with a new one, you're literally rewiring your neural pathways in real time. So, step 3 is where visualization becomes powerful. Once you've replaced the limiting belief, take 30 seconds to visualize yourself embodying this new truth. See yourself responding differently, feeling differently, even being different. Add sensory details like, what would you see or hear or feel? What would your posture be like, or your facial expressions? The more vivid and emotion rich your visualization, the more powerfully it rewires your brain. Also, don't be afraid to add movement. The power of integration, it doesn't just change your thoughts, it transforms your entire experience. Now, let's talk about how this applies to different areas of your life. Relating to health and well being, many of us carry negative thought patterns about our bodies or health. Maybe you catch yourself thinking, I always get sick, or I'll never lose weight, or I have bad genes. The integration process looks like this: recognize the thoughts when they arise and reframe them to something like, my body is incredible at healing. I'm making choices that support my well being. And then visualize yourself full of energy, moving with ease, and radiating health. It's not just positive thinking, it's rewiring your brain's pain perception networks. And it's powerful for your health. Relationship patterns are awfully deeply ingrained. So you might think, no one ever stays, or I always attract the wrong people, or I'm too much for others. So the integration process is noticing the relationship beliefs, replacing them with, I'm worthy of healthy connections, or I'm learning to build fulfilling relationships. Visualize yourself in harmonious, authentic connections, experiencing mutual respect, joy, and understanding. And by the way, if you're too much for someone, they need to go find less. This works in existing relationships too. Many limiting beliefs center around work and purpose, like I'm not good enough for that promotion, or success always comes at a price, or I don't know what my purpose is. So the integration process would be to recognize the career limiting thought, reframe it to, I bring unique value, or I'm discovering my path with each step. And visualize yourself engaged in fulfilling work, making meaningful connections, and being appropriately recognized. Once you integrate new beliefs and visualizations around prosperity and purpose working together, everything will shift. Now, you might be wondering, how long does it take for these changes to become permanent? Research on neuroplasticity suggests that consistent practice for 21 to 67 days is typically needed to form neural pathways. The exact timeline depends on how deeply ingrained the original pattern was. But here's the good news. Once these integrated pathways are established, they become your new default. What once required conscious effort becomes your natural way of being. The science shows that consistency matters more than duration. 5 minutes of integration daily will create more lasting change than an hour-long session once a week. So let's address some challenges you might face in this process. Challenge one might be I forget to practice. First of all, forgive yourself because you're human. The solution would be link the practice to existing habits. Do your 3-step integration right after brushing your teeth or while you're making your coffee. Environmental triggers are powerful reminders. Challenge two, my mind wanders during visualization. The solution, begin with shorter visualizations. Even 20 seconds of focused imagery is beneficial. Use physical anchors like touching your thumb and forefinger together to bring yourself back to the present moment. Even concentrate on the molecules between your fingertips. And what I do, I pay attention to the air entering and leaving my nose when I'm breathing. Challenge three, I don't believe in these new thoughts. The solution is scale back to more believable statements instead of things like I'm confident. Try I'm developing confidence each time I practice. Remember, your new beliefs need to be aspirational, but not so far-fetched that your brain rejects them. So the spiritual acceleration technique, for those of you that connect on the spiritual dimension of this work, before you enter your integration practice, take 3 deep breaths and set the intention. I open myself to divine guidance and support in this transformation. Imagine a golden light above your head entering through your crown and illuminating each step of your practice. This connects your personal transformation to universal support. Whether you attribute this to higher consciousness, quantum field effects, or simply the power of intention doesn't matter. What matters is that it works. So let's create your personal integration plan. As we wrap up the series, I want to help you create your own plan. Choose one area of focus for 21 days. Identify the primary negative thought pattern in that area. Create 3 to 5 empowering replacement statements. Even put them on Post-it notes around the house. Develop a 30-second visualization that embodies these new beliefs. Practice your 3-step integration at least twice daily. And journal your experiences. Note any shifts in feelings, behaviors, or external circumstances. Remember, transformation isn't about perfection, it's about progress. You'll still have moments where your old patterns resurface, and when that happens, simply notice without judgment and return to your practice. What many people don't realize about how this kind of mental mastery creates ripples effect throughout your life. As you integrate these practices into one area, you'll notice positive changes in seemingly unrelated domains. You organically change your life. For example, those of you who worked on health patterns might notice financial improvements. And this happens because you're not just changing specific thoughts, you're upgrading your entire operating system. As we come to an end of our journey together in this series, I want to acknowledge the commitment you've made to your mental mastery. This work isn't always easy, but it is always worth it. You've learned how to rewire negative patterns, break free from limiting beliefs, harness the power of visualization, and now integrate these practices into a comprehensive framework for transformation. Remember, your mind is the most powerful tool you'll ever possess. It's the lens through which you experience everything. As you continue to refine your clarity, that lens, your entire existence of reality transforms. I believe in you and your unlimited potential. So thank you for allowing me to be part of your journey. Until next week, Keep shining your beautiful light.